Hi folks, welcome back to the channel, and thanks to all my new subscribers for subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate that. It makes it possible to do things like this, and to do all that video production takes a lot of time and effort. I'm sure any of you that do that yourselves will know. Right, we've got this Mangalitza leg. It's 6 years old on the 17th of December. It's a little bit before that today, so this is being recorded on the 9th of December, and that's its tag, cured on the 17th of the 12th, 2015. I originally got this from Rowden Farm Products, and I will put a little section of the video that I actually recorded when I was curing it. I thought I had one of my cameras running, but I didn't, so I had a 2-camera setup. I only caught one section of it, so I'll post a little bit of that for you to have a look at. Hello, we're going to be making a prosciutto ham, and I've got a fantastic leg of pork which I've sourced from Beverly James at Rowden Farm Products just south of Leighton Buzzard. And this is a Mangalitza leg, and we're going to put this directly into some salt after giving it a quick once over. I've already done a little bit of trimming on here, so this is ready to go. It's going to go straight into the salt. We're going to cure this for about 28 days, and I'm going to take you through the whole process now. Before we get started, I'm just going to take you through some of the equipment I'm going to use, and then we'll get straight into it. We're going to take all the skin off this and take some slices and see what it tastes like after 6 years. I can't wait. Okay, I've got a selection of knives here. Now, this is quite a stiff blade carving knife. That's for getting most of the skin off the outside. This is a flexible sort of paring knife, a filleting knife, but it actually works really well for getting around some of those tricky little bones so that you can make those cuts and then take the slices. Now, I have a selection of different carving knives that I use. I predominantly use this one for smoked salmon, but it does actually work. It's got a chunk out the end there, look. It's still very sharp, and it still works really well. I'll try using it on a ham. I haven't actually used it on a ham for a while, so. This one is an Italian carving knife. I got this from San Daniele in the northeastern part of Italy, up in the mountains, where we went to a prosciutto factory. They had some knives there, and I asked if I could buy one. So I've got that. You can see it's a lot thinner. It's not fluted. You don't necessarily need a fluted knife when you're doing something as dry as a dry-aged ham. And this one here, this is a very expensive knife. I'll post the details of this in the description of the video. Don't know if you can see that there. This was about 130 euros, which is about 120 quid. And it's a very, very beautiful thin knife. It's got such lovely flexibility. It's razor sharp. You can cut cigarette papers with this. Lovely balance on it as well. So those are my chopping instruments. Basic steel here, and that's for putting an edge back on. And these little beauties here. Now, you can use fish tweezers if you want, but these are authentic ham tweezers. You can see they're slightly different. You can buy these on the internet. You can probably get them delivered to you from Spain. But this is where I bought these. I bought these in Seville when we were there a couple of years ago. And we got the ham stand. Now, this is a proper job. Very expensive. I think this was a couple of €100 as well. And it's got this revolving clasp at the top, so you clamp the ham with this one, and you can rotate the whole ham by lifting it off the spike and literally spinning it round, and then you can lock it off when you come to use it, so you can literally turn it upside down. It's a very useful piece of kit, but we'll do that when we come to use it. Okay, so the ham stand is actually originally sort of designed for the long hams. So you can see I've just made a very slight modification to it here. and you can see that there, where I've actually just drilled another hole just forward, and it takes slightly smaller hams. Now if you had a ham which you'd had the trotter removed and it was a lot shorter, you could make another hole here. You do need that support when you're cutting hams, and if you don't have a clasp like this and you have one of those kind of clamping ham holders, then you don't need obviously to make any adjustments to the holes in it. It will clamp any ham irrespective of length. So that's the setup, that's the equipment. Let's get into slicing. Just make sure we tighten everything up, make sure it doesn't move. Okay, right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this paper covering back a little bit. Don't want to get too much of this on my fingers. That'll do for now. Here goes nothing. And here we go. Okay, it's got a lovely sort of cheesy, sort of funky smell to it. Beautiful amount of oil coming out of that fat. I don't know if you can see, if I rub it on there, you'll see. Nice and shiny. Okay, let's take a little bit more of this skin off here. It's always good having a nice firm base to work with. Look at the colour of that fat, wow. Sometimes you can keep some of this fat and reapply it to keep this for a little bit longer. We're going to leave most of this on, but I'm just going to take a little sliver. There we go. That's grand. Just take a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to start taking slices from the top. But before we can do that, we need to get down to the meat, obviously. And because this has been aging for such a long time, it's very likely that there is going to be a fair bit of trim to come off this before we actually get to something that we can eat. There we go, we're beginning to get a really nice colour now, so that's pretty much where we need it to be. And some of this meat that's coming off it's not throwaway stuff. This can go into stocks and soups. So if you like a pea and ham soup and you want to get an amazing ham flavour in it, then throw your knife on the floor and see how you go. Right, so let's see if we can start taking some slices from this. And you can see we're going to take really nice wafer thin slices. So these are going to be quite thick at the minute until we can get down to some softer meat. There we go. It's going to take a little while to get in. Probably need to go. Don't like to use the carving knife too much. We'll take our paring knife and get rid of some of that. Obviously, one of the downsides of aging a ham for such a long period of time is that over that time you are going to increase the amount of trim that you take from this. Sadly, it's just a consequence of it. Right, well, let's try a little bit of that. Well, it's quite dry. But the flavour, whoa, that is really intense. It's like ham on steroids. Oh wow. It's like ham jerky. I'll keep going. So we're going to take some of this fat off here, and I just simply do that with a spoon. So 6 years, it's a challenging amount of time to keep a ham for, and obviously it is going to dry out. This is actually quite dry, but being dry means it's actually quite stable, so it just means that when you come to eat it you have to dig quite a way into it before you can get anything that's quite moist. But you can see at the moment that is actually quite dry. Still got a beautiful intense flavour to it. We'll keep going. So the area that's exposed to the open side, so the open face of the meat, generally is quite dry, but towards the skin side, it's a little moister. Now, it's true to say that this probably wouldn't be everybody's cup of tea, but I have to say, if you like a nice flavour and you want something that's got a little bit of dryness to it, so if I'm absolutely honest with you, this whole bit at the back here, let me get the camera and show you. So this whole piece here at the back, I think is going to be, unless we get further down to the base where it thickens up a little bit, I think that's going to be too dry, and that's literally going to be jerky. So this area here is still quite moist, as is this piece here, but it's very dry around the face, and it's very dry here. So it's obviously dried out through this area here. Still very tasty, very tasty. I will continue taking a few more cuts from this. Well, that, I have to say, is pretty good. Now, when you want to stop cutting and you want to reapply the paper, all you do is just pull it back out. Before you reapply it, one little tip that I've got, get some stretch film, pop it over the meat like so, and then you can wrap your fat on top of that, wrap your paper on top of that. To protect your ham, once you've covered it with cling film, just use some aluminium foil over the surface of where you've applied the cling film. This will prevent light from getting to the meat and allow you to protect it further from damage. Stick that in a cold place, and that's good for next time. And you can keep taking cuts off this. If you do see any, if you leave it for a while and there's a few little bits of thing growing on there, just take a few slices off, discard those, take the edges, redress the edges, and you're good to go. Wow. Oh, goodness me. I've just got another hit. Oh, it's absolutely delicious. Wow. What a project. 6 years in the making. Fantastic. there you go. That's the ham sliced. You can see I've arranged it on the plate. This is how I would generally serve it to someone. If I was going to store this as well, this is how I would arrange it on a gold silver board before I popped it into a vacuum machine. And you can freeze this and it's amazing. So conclusions, 6 years. Yes, that's an incredibly long time to cure ham. Certainly it's an incredibly long time to dry it. And it is actually quite dry, but that in no way takes or detracts from the flavour. The flavour is so intense. The only way I can describe it is to say it's very similar to what jerky would be, but it's softer than jerky and it's absolutely delicious. Some of the harder trimmings, absolutely not wasted at all. If they're clean, they can be diced and put into soups and stews to give you a real depth of flavour. Some of the less oxidised fat, I mean, you can use that fat in, you can render it down and use it for roast potatoes and things like that. But some of the lard fat that's on the face, some of the sunya, I would just disregard that and get rid of it. That's really there just to keep the moisture in. All in all, 6 years, I mean, it's a proper vintage ham, and the taste is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And by that I mean very nice. Well, I'm sure you don't want to see me eating all this. Thanks for watching, guys, and appreciate your support. Do like and subscribe to the channel. We've got a few more projects like this that are in their infancy, so stay tuned, you'll see some really interesting stuff hopefully. Take care, see you on the next one, bye.